Hello there, and welcome back to The Nostalgia Brit. Do me a favour and cast your mind back, just for a moment, to a Sunday afternoon in 1985. The world felt a lot smaller then, didn't it? Our televisions only had 4 channels, and usually the 4th one was showing a documentary about gardening in Welsh. The shops were firmly closed by 5 p.m, the streets were quiet, and if you wanted something exotic for dinner, your only option was a Vesta beef curry, which, let's be honest, tasted more like cardboard and hope than actual food. It was a quieter Britain, a greyer Britain, and invariably a colder Britain. But look at us now. Walk down any high street in London, Birmingham or Manchester today, and what do you see? We're drinking venti lattes instead of a proper cup of tea. We're eating Kentucky Fried Chicken instead of fish and chips wrapped in newspaper. And the children are calling their mothers mum instead of mum, and throwing their rubbish in the trash instead of the bin. There is an old, slightly bitter joke that the United Kingdom is becoming the 51st state of America. Once upon a time, that was just political satire. But today it feels less like a joke and more like a cultural reality. Think about it. When was the last time you heard the electric hum of a milk float in the morning? Or the distinct rattle of the gasman's bicycle? Those sounds have gone. They've been replaced by the ping of a Netflix notification, the reversing beep of an Amazon delivery van, and the chaotic stampede of Black Friday, a holiday I might remind you that celebrates a Thanksgiving dinner we never actually ate. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be 20 minutes of an old man shouting at clouds. Convenience is a wonderful thing. Central heating is brilliant. And to be fair, a good burger is hard to beat. But in our rush to modernize, in our eagerness to adopt the shiny, convenient, fast-paced lifestyle of our cousins across the Atlantic, have we accidentally traded away our own soul? Have we swapped our unique, slightly eccentric British quirkiness for a pre-packaged, plastic-wrapped version of the American dream? So, put the kettle on, make yourself a proper brew, milk in last, please, and let's take a walk through the memory of a country that is slowly fading away. Let's look at how we erased ourselves, one cookie and movie at a time. To understand this shift, we have to start at the very heart of British life, or at least what used to be the heart, the high street. If you grew up in the 70s or 80s, Saturday morning wasn't a time for relaxation. It was a military operation. It was a pilgrimage. You didn't just go shopping. You went to the shops, plural. And there was a very specific order to things.
First, the butcher. Do you remember the smell? Sawdust on the floor, raw meat, and a man in a striped apron who knew your mother's name and exactly how thick she liked her bacon cut. Then you'd go to the greengrocer, where everything was covered in a fine layer of soil, because vegetables came from the ground, not a plastic bag. Then the baker, for a loaf of bread that would go stale within 24 hours because it didn't have enough preservatives to survive a nuclear winter. It was exhausting. It was often raining, and you had to carry everything by hand. It was a chore in the truest sense of the word. But then we saw something glittering on the horizon. An American invention that promised to save us from the wet and the cold. The shopping mall. I remember the first time I stepped into an indoor shopping centre. It felt like entering a spaceship. It was warm. It was bright. There was music playing from invisible speakers, and the floor was so shiny you could see your face in it. Suddenly, you didn't need to walk from the butcher to the baker in the drizzle. You could park your car in a multi-story concrete block and buy everything under one roof. We didn't realize it at the time, but that was the beginning of the end for our towns. The American model of drive-to shopping killed the British model of walk-to shopping. We traded the community for convenience. We stopped chatting to the butcher about the football scores and started silently pushing trolleys down endless aisles of a supermarket that looked exactly the same in Bristol as it did in Bradford. The high street used to be where life happened. It was messy, it was loud, and it was ours. The mall? The mall is efficient, sterile, and could be anywhere on planet Earth. We gained dry feet, certainly, but I can't help but feel we lost the heartbeat of our weekends. But if the changing face of our high streets is visible to the eye, the next change is something you have to listen for. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. It's the sound of our own voice. For centuries, the Atlantic Ocean was a massive soundproof barrier. We spoke English, they spoke American, and we all knew where we stood. We had pavements, they had sidewalks. We had autumn, they had fall. We had lifts, and they had elevators. Then in the mid-1990s, that barrier was smashed to pieces by 6 people sitting on a sofa in a coffee shop called Central Perk. We cannot underestimate the Friends effect. It was a Trojan horse of vocabulary that entered every living room in Britain at 9 p.m. on a Friday night. Suddenly, an entire generation of British teenagers didn't just want to dress like Rachel Green, they started talking like her.
It started subtly. We stopped saying, "I'd like a coffee, please," and started saying, "Can I get a latte?" Can I get? It sounds harmless enough, doesn't it? But to a traditional British ear, it's like nails on a blackboard. Since when do we get things? We used to politely request them. But the American service industry dialect is efficient, direct, and utterly devoid of that apologetic dunce we Brits usually do before asking for anything. And it didn't stop there. Have you noticed how the seasons have changed? Nobody seems to look forward to autumn anymore. They're all excited for fall. We don't go to the cinema to see a film. We go to the movies to see a movie. And perhaps the most painful one of all, the letter Z. It is Z. It has always been Z. But listen to anyone under the age of 15 today reciting the alphabet, and they will finish with a confident rhyming Z. It's not just the words, though. It's the melody. It's that rising intonation at the end of sentences, where everything sounds like a question, even when it's a statement. That is classic Californian Valley girl speak, and somehow it has migrated all the way to the rainy streets of Birmingham. We are slowly losing that flat, cynical, deadpan delivery that makes British humour work so well, replacing it with an upbeat, sunny optimism that frankly doesn't suit our weather. Speaking of things that don't suit us, let's talk about what we're putting in our mouths. Because if language is the software of a culture, food is the hardware. And our hardware has been completely rewired. And it's not just spoken words that are changing, it's the lyrics we sing along to. If you look back at the mid-90s, we had a brief shining moment called Cool Britannia. It was the era of Oasis versus Blur. It was a time when British bands didn't just conquer the world, they did it while refusing to be anything other than aggressively British. When the Gallagher brothers sang, they sounded like they were from Manchester. When Damon Albarn sang, he sounded like he was from Essex. The Proclaimers sang in a Scottish accent so thick you could practically chew it. They wore their regional identities like badges of honour. They didn't try to polish the rough edges for the international market. But turn on the radio today, or rather open your Spotify Top 50 and listen closely to the British artists. There is a strange phenomenon happening.
It's called the Mid-Atlantic Singing Voice. You have lads from South London or girls from Yorkshire who, the moment the beat drops, suddenly sound like they were born in Los Angeles. They flatten their vowels, they soften their T's, they adopt the cadence of American R&B or pop, because that is what the algorithm rewards.
We used to export our eccentricity. The Beatles, Bowie, the Sex Pistols. They were weird, they were wonderful, and they were unmistakably us. Now we seem to be exporting conformity. We are producing music that is designed to fit seamlessly into a global playlist, sandwiched between Drake and Taylor Swift, without jarring the listener's ear with anything too local. We are smoothing out our edges to fit into a round American whole. Go back to that high street in the 1970s. If you wanted a burger, you went to a Wimpy. And do you remember how you ate it? You sat at a table. The burger was served on a porcelain plate, and, this is the crucial part, you ate it with a knife and fork. It was civilized. It was a meal. Then came the Golden Arches. I remember when the first McDonald's opened in my town. It was exotic. It was neon. But it fundamentally changed our relationship with food. It taught us that eating didn't require a plate or cutlery or even a table. It taught us that food was fuel to be consumed on the move, ideally while driving or walking. But the biggest shock wasn't the lack of cutlery, it was the sugar. British sweets and American candy used to be very different beasts. Cadbury's dairy milk was our gold standard, rich, creamy and comforting. American chocolate, to be polite, tastes a bit like it's been made in a laboratory by someone who has had the concept of chocolate described to them over a crackly telephone line. It is sharper, sweeter, and has a distinct aftertaste that I can only describe as industrial. Yet slowly that high fructose corn syrup taste has crept into everything. Have you looked at the size of things lately? In the 80s, a large soda was something you could hold in one hand. Today, a large at the cinema is practically a bucket. We have adopted the American philosophy of supersizing, where value is determined by volume, not quality. We used to treat sugar as a luxury. Now it's a lifestyle. We have traded our Sunday roasts for Sunday brunch pancakes drowning in syrup. We have swapped our savoury palate for a sweet one. And in doing so, we haven't just expanded our waistlines, we've changed the very flavour of Britain. We are literally consuming the American dream 1 calorie at a time.
But perhaps the saddest casualty of this cultural invasion isn't what we eat or how we speak, but what we celebrate. If you grew up in Britain before the turn of the millennium, November meant one thing, and one thing only: bonfire night. It was a uniquely British, slightly unhinged tradition. Remember the 5th of November. We would gather in muddy fields, wrapped in scarves, standing around a massive roaring fire to burn an effigy of a man who tried to blow up Parliament in 1605. It was dark, it was smoky, and it was usually freezing cold. We ate treacle toffee that was hard enough to pull your fillings out, and we wrote our names in the air with sparklers. It was gritty, it was historical, and it was ours. But look at November now. Guy Fawkes has been pushed aside by a giant orange pumpkin. Halloween used to be a minor blip on the British calendar. Maybe you'd bob for an apple or tell a ghost story. Now, it is an industry. We have traded the smell of gunpowder and wood smoke for the smell of plastic and pumpkin spice lattes. We have swapped penny for the guy, a charmingly amateurish begging tradition, for trick or treat, which is essentially demanding sweets with menaces. The aisles of our supermarkets turn orange in September. We buy plastic skeletons and fake cobwebs. We have adopted a holiday that has no roots in our soil
simply because it looks better on Instagram than a muddy field and a burning dummy. And don't get me started on Black Friday. At least Halloween is fun for the kids. Black Friday is just baffling. It is the day after American Thanksgiving, a holiday we do not celebrate. Yet every year we see British people fighting in Tesco's over a discounted television, participating in a ritual of consumerism that makes absolutely no sense on this side of the Atlantic. We are celebrating the sale, worshipping the bargain, completely divorced from the context. This shift from community traditions to commercial events leads us to the final and perhaps most profound loss, the public house. For centuries, the pub was the third place. You had home, you had work, and you had the pub. It was the living room of the community. It was where you went to celebrate, to commiserate, or just to escape the rain. The rules of the British pub were unwritten but sacred. You could walk in alone and not be lonely. You could talk to the person next to you at the bar about the weather, the government, or the price of milk, and it wasn't considered weird. It was a social leveler. A barrister could sit next to a bricklayer, and for the duration of a pint, they were equals. But the pub is dying. And what is replacing it? The coffee shop. Now, I like coffee, but the atmosphere of a modern chain coffee shop is the opposite of a pub. Walk into a Starbucks today. What do you hear? Silence. Everyone is there, but no one is there. They're behind laptops, wearing noise-cancelling headphones, staring at screens. It is private time in a public space.
This is the ultimate Americanization of our social life, the triumph of the individual over the community. The pub forced us to interact. The coffee shop allows us to isolate. We are surrounded by people, yet we have never been more alone. So, here we are. We speak with American accents, we eat American food, we celebrate American holidays, and we isolate ourselves in American-style coffee shops. We are cleaner, yes. We are more modern, certainly. The food is undeniably tastier than the Vesta curries of 1985, but as the rain falls on the high street outside, washing away the chalk from the pavement, I can't help but feel that we have washed away the very things that made us different. We are becoming a blurred photocopy of a country 3,000 miles away. And once the unique character of a nation is gone, once the quirks, the grittiness, and the eccentricities are smoothed over by the steamroller of globalization, you can never truly get it back. So hold on to your you in colour. Keep saying autumn. And maybe, just maybe, this November 5th, light a sparkler for the Britain that used to be. But if sugar is changing our waistlines, there is something else changing our minds, something far more subtle, our sense of humour. British humour has always been a bit broken, in a good way. It is built on self-deprecation, cynicism and failure. Our heroes are not winners. Our hero is Del Boy falling through a bar. Our hero is Basil Fawlty having a nervous breakdown and beating his car with a tree branch. We laugh at misery because it's better than crying about it. We are masters of irony and sarcasm. We say, "Oh, wonderful weather," when it is pouring with rain. We say, "You've done a cracking job," when someone has completely destroyed something. But American humour, generally speaking, is different. It is optimistic. It is about winners. In American sitcoms, the characters are often good-looking, successful, and when they tell a joke, there is a helpful laughter track to tell you exactly when to smile. It is sincere. And here lies the problem. Sincerity is the enemy of Britishness. I've noticed lately that the younger generation, the ones raised on Disney Channel and American YouTubers, struggle with this. They take things literally. If you use dry sarcasm today, you risk offending someone or simply being misunderstood. You have to flag your jokes with a JK or a laughing emoji, which entirely defeats the point of the joke. We are losing our ability to read between the lines. We are trading the dark, complex, acquired taste of Monty Python or The Office for the bright, shiny, easy-to-digest punchlines of The Big Bang Theory. We are becoming a nation that needs a laughter track because we're forgetting how to laugh at ourselves. Now, before I go, I have a confession to make. I wrote this script on an American laptop. I am currently wearing a t-shirt made by an American brand, and later tonight I will probably watch an American movie on Netflix while eating popcorn. I am part of the problem. We all are, and that's okay. The world moves forward and we can't live in a museum. But that is exactly why I built this channel, to create a little corner of the internet where we can pause, rewind, and appreciate the way things used to be. Not because the past was perfect, it certainly wasn't, but because it was ours. But enough from me. I want to hear from you. Is there a specific word, a specific sweet shop, or a specific habit from your childhood that has completely vanished? What is the one thing that, if you saw it today, would instantly transport you back to 1980? Please let me know in the comments down below. I read every single one of them, and honestly, your stories are often better than my scripts. If you enjoyed this rather long ramble through our cultural history, please do give the video a thumbs up, or as we used to say, a jolly good show. It really helps the channel reach more people who might be missing the old days just as much as we are. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the Nostalgia Brit. We have plenty more memories to unbox together. Thank you so much for lending me your time today. It's a privilege to share these memories with you. I'm the Nostalgia Brit. I'll see you in the next one. Good night and mind the gap.